Hello and welcome back to the Second Take Podcast. My name is Calvin Williams. I'm here with my co-host Marco Rogers, and today we are celebrating a Michigan victory, absolutely dominant second half performance, 28-3 in the second half. Just a great performance from Michigan. I couldn't be happier. Michigan almost securing their college football playoff chances that weekend, along with a victory over the Buckeyes. That's good enough for me, but the college football playoff's a good added benefit. Marco, any words of praise for that Michigan team?
Yeah, this is a second year straight Michigan has won at the line of scrimmage. Early on, actually, first half, Michigan was not winning at the line of scrimmage. Ohio State clearly committed to stopping the run, putting 7-8 guys in the tackle box. Michigan still trying to run it, but that ended up putting us in second and third and longs. So in the first half, I thought with Ohio State putting all those people in the box, I thought there's a chance that they can get away with this game, up 10-3 up in Michigan territory after Michigan punts. I thought they might go down and score a touchdown. This game could get ugly, but this came down to J.J. McCarthy making plays in the first half and early in the third quarter. And then over time, the run game was always going to come in and dominate. And the fourth quarter, that's what's happened. Michigan's defense, insane. Mike Sanders still had an insane game. Mozzie Smith and Jenkins in the interior were getting lots of pressure. Just very impressed with this performance. I was honestly not expecting a Michigan win, let alone Michigan win by 22. I thought if we had any chance, it would be off some game-winning field goal, not pure dominance like this. So excited to beat Ohio State for the second year straight, especially in Columbus, and get to play again next week.
Yeah, the only thing I would say I disagree with you on is that our D linemen got good pass rush. I'd say we did what we could in the run game while we needed to space our defense out to stop those wide passes. But then again, I just don't think we're getting good enough pressure for teams like Georgia. But this game was, like you said, great win. Just good to be back in the Big Ten championship. Anything else?
Yeah, I was more talking about the interior pressure with Mozzie Smith. He was getting, the edges were getting completely locked up for most of the game.
He got pressure once, Marco. I want to call it great.
He got pressure 4 times. And Jenkins.
No, were we watching the same game?
Yep.
Nope. All right, next up, we got USC beating number 15 Notre Dame. Definitely a big win for the scope of the college football playoff. As we have seen in the most recent college football playoff poll, this moved USC to number 4. So that's a huge jump, basically saying that if USC wins in the Pac-12 championship, they will be that team in the college football playoff. Over Ohio State. So that is definitely a huge win for them, especially since Notre Dame had come off a couple of huge wins. This was a great performance from Caleb Williams, and he essentially secured himself the Heisman Trophy. Marco?
Yeah, this was a huge win for USC. Lots of people predicting that Notre Dame would win. I thought that Notre Dame would win probably a couple weeks ago, but after USC against UCLA, I thought they were one of the hottest teams in college football. They're continuing to be one of the hottest teams in college football. Their defense was not bad. And they just really impressed me. Caleb Williams, the Heisman is his to lose. As long as the team doesn't lose to Utah, he has the Heisman. And I'm just very excited to see where USC can go. And Notre Dame, tough loss, 8-4 season, not ideal. But first year with a head coach, still looking bright for the future with a really nice incoming class. But yeah, very impressed with USC. Interested to see who they play against in the playoff if they beat Utah.
Most likely we'll see them play Georgia, but if Georgia somehow loses to LSU in the conference championship, we'll see Michigan at 1. USC will be playing Michigan, even though I think they might be a better team than TCU. So that would be unfortunate for us Michigan fans out there. Me personally, and I think Marco would agree with me that we would much rather play a TCU team than that Heisman-led USC team. Moving on, we have number 21 Oregon State taking down number 9 Oregon. No really playoff implications here, but it does affect these New Year's Six bowls coming up. Marco, anything to say about this one?
Yeah, I'm very impressed with Oregon State. When your quarterback goes 6 for 13, 60 yards and 2 picks, usually you don't win the game. I mean, their leading rusher only had 103 yards. Bo Nix went for 330 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Honestly, 3 turnovers from Oregon State, 0 from Oregon. Oregon, 35 minutes time of possession, 25 for Oregon State. Honestly, don't quite figure out how they won this game. It came in a late comeback, 34-17 at one point in the fourth quarter, with 13 minutes left. Then Oregon State just gets lots of stops at the end. And even though the stats say Oregon dominated this game, Oregon State able to pull away with a big one in a huge rivalry game.
I agree. This game seemed to be dominated by Oregon, especially in the stat sheet. But Oregon State able to pull it away, definitely helping out their higher bowl chances. Next up, we have number 19 Tulane beating number 24 Cincinnati. This Tulane team is very solid. I mean, barring that one loss that they had earlier in the season to what was it, like South Alabama or something, like garbage loss. And then they have one other loss, but they've had a really solid season, and then this is definitely a team you can expect to be probably in a New Year's Six bowl, in that Cotton Bowl, with that group of 5 team always being there. So definitely a great season for Tulane. Good win. Excuse me. Good win here over another top 25 team. Just great win here. This Tulane team is definitely fun to watch. Marco.
Yeah, Tulane, 2 losses on the year, as you said. One to Southern Mississippi, the other one to UCF. UCF is a team they'll be able to avenge that loss in the American Conference Championship, which we will talk about later. Winner of that game probably going to the Cotton Bowl. But yeah, very good win for Tulane. They're able to win at the line of scrimmage with running back T.J. Spears going for 181 yards, 2 touchdowns. Just overall, they played better, no turnovers. Cincinnati had a costly turnover late, and that's what won Tulane this game, close game. And that was actually Cincinnati's first home loss in 3 years, which was pretty insane. So great win for Tulane. Excited to see if they make a New Year's Six bowl.
Yeah, definitely a great win for that school. Moving on, number 8 Clemson losing to South Carolina. This is a huge loss. People were saying, "Oh, Clemson might be able to sneak their way in." Not anymore. That 1-loss team has turned into a 2-loss team. This Clemson team, me and Marco said, honestly, we're not surprised that they lost. We actually both predicted it. This South Carolina team came off a great win against Tennessee, probably one of the more impressive ones all season among any team. And then they go to Death Valley, get a win over Clemson, force DJ Uiagalelei to complete only 8 passes on 29 attempts, held him to less than 100 yards and only 1 touchdown plus an interception. That's some dominant defense. The only way that Clemson was able to move the ball was on the ground, and they were able to make them one-dimensional enough to get the 1-point win. So great win for South Carolina. I hope we'll see them in some type of decent bowl with the way they're playing right now. Marco?
Yeah, I mean, Clemson had a pick 6 and a safety, and they still lost. This is pretty embarrassing. DJ Uiagalelei, 8 for 29, 99 yards, a touchdown, a pick. Terrible performance. Spencer Rattler has gone absolutely crazy the last 2 weeks. A week ago, he had around 500 yards, 7 touchdowns, no turnovers here. 360 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Great performance from South Carolina. They'll get themselves into a good bowl game and have lots of momentum for next year if Spencer Rattler returns.
Yeah, we're hoping that Spencer Rattler can continue to develop. Obviously started at Oklahoma a couple years ago, super highly rated recruit. Didn't do well, replaced by Caleb Williams. Now he's back at South Carolina and making strides. late in the season, making South Carolina look like a certain contender next year. Finally, we have number 5 LSU losing to Texas A&M. Huge loss here. LSU had a chance to break into the college football playoff with 2 losses. This completely eliminated that. Texas A&M finally getting a win. They're finishing the season 5-7. Not what you like to see, but they do get it done. Just huge win here. LSU completely out of the playoffs now. No way they can break in, and actually they'll be the first 3-loss team ever to make the SEC championship. Marco?
Yeah, this is absolutely embarrassing out of LSU. You play against a 4-7 team who had more trouble with UMass, 1-10 UMass, than against number 5 LSU. Devon Achane could not be stopped, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was just ground and pound all game for Texas A&M. I was very impressed with the performance out of Connor Weigman. 12 for 18, 155 yards, 2 touchdowns. Didn't have to do much, but was very good when he had to. And just so embarrassing for LSU. Everything happened in front of you so you could sneak into the playoffs. And all you really had to do was maybe even play Georgia close next week and be able to stay in the playoffs. But
no, not with 3 losses. They couldn't.
Yeah, probably not. But still, this is just such an embarrassing loss. And for a great season that LSU had, it's tough to see it go down against a 5-7 team that had nothing to win.
It certainly does suck a little bit for LSU, but I'm happy about it. I hate Brian Kelly, so. Moving on, we're going to do some final New Year's 6 and Heisman predictions. We're going to sort of breeze through this, not too much explanation. And just a little something to know about the playoffs in the New Year's 6 bowls. Marco, you want to tell them?
Yeah, so for the playoffs, obviously it's 2 versus 3, 1 versus 4. But for many of the New Year's 6 bowls, like the Rose Bowl and Cotton Bowl, it's set to be a conference versus conference. So it's not necessarily the best teams. It's just like, let's say, ACC versus SEC or something. So those teams have to get in. So that is why some teams like Florida State and Clemson you'll see in here over teams like Washington, over teams like Oregon.
Just a little thing that used to be more relevant is now less relevant with the college football playoff in effect. So first up, number 2 Michigan versus number 3 TCU. This is what we're expecting. Both teams win. Georgia wins, keeping Michigan at 2 and TCU at 3. This game is not likely to change. But the most likely way it could is if TCU gets upset by Kansas State. That's the only way that this would not happen. Marco, you want to take the next one?
Next up, number 1 Georgia versus number 4 USC in the Peach Bowl. Definitely an interesting matchup there. I think USC could definitely contend with Georgia compared to TCU if TCU loses and somehow still gets in. But I think USC is a very good matchup for Georgia and could give them a run for their money.
I think USC definitely has a lot of athletes that can sort of just keep them in the room with Georgia. And if you're able to do that, you can always win a close game. It's just how the world works. Now to the non-playoff New Year's 6 bowls. First, we have number 5 Ohio State versus either number 12 Washington or number 11 Utah in the Rose Bowl. This really just depends on if it depends on the Pac-12 championship game that that Utah is playing in, and a few other factors. Marco, anything to say about this one?
Yeah, if Utah beats USC, that would prove that they're the better team, having beaten them 2 times in 1 year. If Utah loses, I see USC being in the playoffs. Therefore, Washington is the next best Pac-12 team. So that's why they're there.
Unless Utah goes anyways.
Which is unlikely considering they're only 1 spot between each other.
True. Next up, we have number 8 Penn State versus number 18 Tulane or number 22 UCF. This is just going to depend on that conference championship game between Tulane and UCF. And I don't know. That's really the only game that decides this one. Marco?
Yeah, I mean, Penn State's probably going to dominate that game unless they have a few players that won't play. But definitely going to be fun to see a group of 5 team play against a powerhouse like Penn State. Next up, number 6 Alabama versus number 10 Kansas State in the Sugar Bowl. This is assuming that Kansas State loses to TCU, because then I think even if Kansas State beats TCU then would be in this bowl game against Bama, which would be interesting. But still, Bama versus Kansas State, this would be very interesting. Um, Bama could sneak into the playoffs if TCU and USC lose by a lot. They'd probably have to both lose by 20 plus, so which is unlikely. But I'm still very excited if this matchup does happen between Bama and Kansas State.
Yeah, I think this would be a super high intensity matchup. They're always comparing or not always, but especially this year with the way the Big 12 has played against the SEC, they've gotten a lot of wins. So this is definitely going to be a big competition for the future of the Big 12 and SEC. And then finally, we have number 9 Clemson versus number 9 Clemson or number 14 Florida State versus number 7 Tennessee in the Orange Bowl. This game, once again, a couple of things could happen. Tennessee probably locked there, despite having the last few losses. They're still ending up at number 7. So we're either going to see Clemson or Florida State here in this one, depending on the ACC championship. Margo?
Oh, yeah. Joe Milton actually impressed me considering what he did for Michigan in 2020 in that game against Vanderbilt, but it's Vanderbilt. I think Tennessee will win this game. I think the only way Florida State really makes this pull is if Clemson loses by a lot to North Carolina, or even honestly just loses to a bad North Carolina team in the ACC championship. Me personally, I'd prefer to see Florida State against Tennessee. I think they give them more of a competition, more of a fun team in Florida State. Clemson's just going to run the ball 50 times and hope they can run all over Tennessee. So hopefully it's Florida State. And that would be a very interesting matchup.
Yeah, definitely. All of those are going to be very interesting. We'll see how they go. And then we're just going to breeze through these final Heisman predictions. Marco, you want to take it?
Yeah, at 1, Caleb Williams. It's his to lose. I think he would have to play bad and USC would have to lose to Utah. I think even if he plays well in a loss to Utah, he wins it. Or even if he plays bad in a win against Utah, he's still going to win it. He's the best player in college football. And his team's likely to make the playoffs.
Yeah, next up we have Max Duggan, quarterback, TCU. Over 3,000 yards passing on the season. He's brought this TCU team from nowhere unranked at the start of the season to one of the top teams in all of college football. Huge wins, huge comeback wins. He's just shown he's really got that dog in him. He's able to come back, get the job done. Just truly a leader, and definitely deserves to be up there. Margo?
Yeah, one thing I would like to say about Max Duggan is, let's say Michigan plays against TCU. He's not a guy that scares me early in the game when Michigan, if we're tied early, 3-3, he's not a guy that's going to, go down, drop a beautiful pass 75 yards downfield like a guy like Bryce Young would. But he's a leader. He can come back from big deficits. He uses a not great receiving core very well, uses his big target in Quentin Johnston very well. He has mobile legs, and as we described in earlier episodes, a great story considering the I believe heart disease that he had in 2020. So definitely I think he deserves the spot. Cal, why don't you take number 3?
Number 3, me and Marco have Blake Corum. The reason we put him at this spot, he got hurt. He was looking like 1 or 2, possibly a Heisman winner through the season, but that injury is definitely going to hurt him. The only way we see him really breaking into those top 2 spots is if he's able to not only play in the Big Ten championship game, but also have a monstrous game in the Big Ten championship. So we'll see how that goes. But my guess is he probably won't play. Michigan will probably be resting him for the college football playoff, and he'll end up at this 3 spot. Margo?
Yeah, I think if he does go against Purdue and has a big game over 200 yards, and maybe Caleb Williams and Max Duggan both lose, I think Corum should have the Heisman. but I don't really see those things all happening. I think he could play. I'm not sure if his injury is really much of a re-injuring type of thing. Maybe just more of a pain thing, considering they said it was probably a bone bruise, which doesn't tend to get re-injured. It is painful though. Um, so I think if he can go, has a huge game, he can maybe sneak into that 1 or 2 spot. But otherwise, I think he should still easily go to New York, but not sure if he's going to win the Heisman with that injury.
Yeah, I would agree. You want to take the last one?
Oh yeah, and at 4 we have C.J. Stroud. Probably one of the most talented. Well, probably the most arm talent in all of college football. Maybe Bryce Young has more, but I mean, he drops beautiful passes. He just doesn't really have much of a He doesn't lead his team much. He's pretty soft whenever he's going to take a hit, and that's why he's not going to be much consideration for number one, and because his team's probably not going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean that CJ Stroud's one of the most accurate quarterbacks I've ever seen. Even in that loss to Michigan, he was making some of the most phenomenal throws I personally have ever seen. But he just simply does not have that dog in him. Unlike Max Duggan, not able to come back. I think he can develop sort of a leadership role as he grows into the NFL, but he's definitely going to need to become that leader if he wants to make some noise in the NFL. Marco, you want to take the next things we have?
Oh, yeah. So next up, college basketball on quite a few upsets, obviously, with the big tournaments happening. We'll just say number 22, Tennessee, takes down number 3, Kansas by quite a bit. Very impressed with the play there by Tennessee, considering they lost early in the year to Colorado. Big bounce back to beat a top 3 team. Iowa State and Alabama, number 18 Alabama, both beat number 1 North Carolina. Obviously, I thought they were overrated, not coming into the year, but after seeing them against their teams like Austin P and beating a team like Austin P by 7, they were pretty clearly overrated. Not sure why they're still number 1. But playing against legit opponents, they struggle. That Alabama game was truly incredible. Cal, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, this was a quadruple overtime game that Alabama was able to pull away, 103 to 101. They basically played 3 halves after a third straight day of basketball. So these guys were gassed. It was super fun to watch them duke it out. Caleb Love had a phenomenal game. This UNC team is still very, very talented. They just haven't displayed the ability to blow teams out or the ability to just like take control of games, and that's why they have 2 losses right now. This is definitely a team that could do something similar to what they did last year and definitely make some noise in the NCAA tournament. Marco, you want to take the last one?
Oh, yeah. Number 24 Purdue team losing Travion Williams and Ivy. I thought they would be bad this year. Pretty much Zach Edey and a bunch of nobodies take down number 6 Gonzaga and number 8 Duke to win probably the biggest preseason tournament in the Phil Knight legacy. Very impressed with Purdue. I think they scare me. I still think Michigan matches up well with them for when we play twice, maybe 3 times in the Big Ten tournament, but Purdue, very impressed, now a top 5 team. And then we're going to preview Michigan versus number 3 Virginia and number 19 Kentucky. Virginia tonight, you guys will already know what happened by the time listening to this. 19 Kentucky, that will be on Sunday. Cal, do you want to start off?
Michigan versus Virginia. This game's really probably going to be a blowout, unfortunately. I think Virginia is going to take care of business. I think they're much more talented than Michigan. Only way we stay in the game is if Hunter Dickinson is able to consistently get the ball in the post and kick it out to Jet Howard. Those 2 are our best players by far. I just think the guard play right now on Michigan is too weak to beat these very good teams. But I think if it's able to develop, we could become a better team. Marco?
Yeah, I think Virginia is not the type of team that's going to blow us out, but I think they're going to win by like 12, 15 pretty comfortably. 19 Kentucky, Oscar Tshiebwe, he could lock down Hunter Dickinson. I think that's going to be a tough game playing in London. But I just don't see Kentucky as a team that wins close games. I think Michigan plays them close. And I think we win one of these 2. Not sure about Virginia. That would be very nice, but I don't see us losing both, even though we're not that great a team. I just think if we get hot, we can easily pull off an upset.
I agree. We're always going to be a team that if we're able to hit our shots, we're definitely going to have the ability to win games. Next up, some little World Cup action. USA tying England and beating Iran and squeezing their way out of the group. Huge win today. USA fans held their breath for a minute as Christian Pulisic was injured, but he has said he will play on Saturday, so shouldn't be much worries there. And then the game that USA will be playing in the round of 16 will be the Netherlands. Marco, you want to talk about it?
Oh yeah, I strongly dislike Netherlands. I mean, they have some really good players. They have Memphis Depay. They have Delight, Virgil van Dijk. Lots of very good players. But I do think USA, Christian Pulisic. I think Adams is probably one of the best players on their team. Very underrated. I think Turner has a big game in goal. I think USA keeps it close, maybe 1-1, heads into overtime. Then I don't really know. I think these are two pretty even teams. So I think this game could go to penalties. Maybe it could be a blowout for Netherlands, but give me the USA in a close 2-1 win in overtime.
There would certainly be a lot of happy people if that was able to happen. Moving on, we are going to breeze through the NFL. First off, Pats and Lions both lose in very close games. Marco believes that the Pats got robbed by the refs. He can touch on that in a minute. Lions lost brutal Thanksgiving. I was there. It was a great game. We fought hard. Bills are a very good team. We just simply made too many mistakes to win that game against that good of a team. But great fight from the Lions. We're definitely showing some upside. Marco?
Oh, yeah, about the Pats-Vikings game. I think that was probably the worst refereeing I've seen all year in NFL or college football. Hunter Henry, he has the ball in the end zone. Then he falls, and they say he lost control while he was down, even though he already scored. And then as he hit the ground, as they review it, you can see he had his hand under the ball. So the ball never hit the ground. He had control of it the whole time. But somehow they say it was incomplete. Then we have to kick a field goal. If they ruled that touchdown to be 33-30, then Pats would not have to go for it on that 4th and 15 in Vikings territory. Would have kicked a field goal. Probably would have won with the way we were playing. On the kick return touchdown by the Vikings, clear illegal block in the back. On that 4th and 15 I was talking about, clear face mask by the Vikings. Grabbed Mac Jones' helmet. Pretty embarrassing by the rest, but very tough loss for the Pats and a must-win game against the Bills coming up on Thursday.
Yep, in the final game, Josh Jacob going for 300 yards in the Raiders win. He just went absolutely crazy, including an 80-yard touchdown to seal it in overtime. So big win there for the Raiders. And then predictions, like you said, Pats versus Bills, must-win game for the Pats. They're really hoping that defense can stand tall against a high-powered offense with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. And then Jags at Lions. This is really a turning point for the Lions. Are they going to decide to make a push for the playoffs, try to win out, or you tank, you get a good draft pick? I'm taking the Lions here. I think they're a much better team than the Jags, but that's only if they decide to win it. Marco?
Yeah, I think Pats beat the Bills. Bill Belichick, masterclass here, must-win game. And I do think Lions beat the Jags just because they're the better team. Jags actually just did beat the Ravens. Actually, give me the Jags. They beat the Ravens. I think they're trying to get confidence in Trevor Lawrence. Meanwhile, Lions, after that tough loss to the Bills, I think they might just start tanking. I think it'll be a very close game between two subpar but not bad teams. But give me the Jags in a close one.
All right. Next up, we have our college football playoff championship weekend predictions. We're going to start it off with Michigan versus Purdue. We're not going to predict it, even though Michigan is a heavy favorite. We never like to predict these big games. Anything can happen. Michigan has shown weakness in trap games with Maryland, Illinois. Teams can play them close. This is a veteran Purdue squad. Michigan is definitely more talented, but they're going to have to lock in, not look ahead, take care of business here. Marco?
Yeah, the thing is, there isn't really anything to look ahead to. We don't know who we're playing next. So I think Michigan's going to definitely make this more of a business trip, really focus on Purdue. Aiden O'Connell, very accurate quarterback, not mobile, in the pocket without pressure. He can definitely damage a defense. Charlie Jones, good at finding the holes in the zone, sneaky athletic player, just very good at getting open in man coverage. Not a guy that's going to win a jump ball opportunity, but a guy that could go for a sneaky 90 yards every game. And Purdue, everyone calls them the spoiler makers. They beat a top 10 team almost every single year. Maybe this will be it for them, but I think Michigan, I'm not going to make a prediction, but no reason why Michigan should have that close of a game here.
Hoping we take care of business there. Moving on, number 10, Kansas State versus number 3, TCU. TCU has been able to take care of business all year so far, but this Kansas State team is very solid behind Deuce Vaughn at running back. Definitely a very solid Kansas State team. I got TCU here. They've just been able to win close games. I think they'll do that again here. Marco?
Last time these two met at TCU, Kansas State was up 28-10 with about a minute to go in the half. Then Adrian Martinez got injured. Even though his backup, Will Howard, did really impress. Adrian Martinez being out, I think, affected that game. I think Kansas State wants revenge. I think this is going to be a very, very close game like TCU has played so many. But I just feel like TCU is a game of destiny, a team of destiny. I think that last-second field goal against Baylor kind of proved it. I just don't see them losing this game with the playoffs. Maybe Big 12 might rig it a little for the refs, so they will have a team. Give me TCU in a close one.
I definitely agree with the ref statement. Big 12 is going to want a team there. Might do a little bit of fumbling with that game. Next up, we have number 4, USC versus number 11, Utah. Marco, you want to talk about the stakes for this game?
Oh, yeah, huge stakes. Friday night game, so everyone's going to be watching that. Ohio State fans are going to have all their Utah gear on after beating them in the Rose Bowl last year. USC just take care of business. They're going to want revenge for that game at Utah earlier in the year. And I think USC is the better team. Caleb Williams is the better quarterback. Actually, Travis Dye is out for the year, which might be tough for USC. I think they still can run the ball with that counter run scheme. Jordan Addison, too talented. I think USC is just too talented to lose 2 games to a team like Utah. Give me USC. They're going to focus more on the tight end, Dalton Kincaid, that went for about 200 yards on them last time. Give me USC, and give me them locking up a playoff spot.
Huge game for USC, playoff game on the line. I think they'll take care of business. Utah winning a close one last week, but things happen. I think USC is taking care of business. All right, final 2 games. Number 14, LSU versus number 1, Georgia. LSU win, gets a New Year's Six Bowl. Georgia win. They're probably already in the playoffs, but locking up that number 1 spot. And then finally, number 22, UCF versus number 18, Tulane. Winner of that game is going to the Cotton Bowl, probably to play Penn State. Marco, anything else?
No, not really. I think Georgia might play close as they have against Georgia Tech and Kentucky. They've shown some weakness, but I still see Georgia winning that game. I think Tulane gets vengeance, makes the Cotton Bowl. Yep.
All right. Do you have anything else to say?
Yep. Our final rhyme of the regular season. If Max Duggan can get running, the Horned Frogs will keep chugging.
Great to hear. That is all for today. Thank you all for listening to the Second Take Podcast. We will see you next week. Hopefully as some happy Michigan fans. Peace.
Bye.